Hey guys, and welcome to Quality Shot. I'm really excited to be joined by Asjad from Cricket4Us 2.0, which I'm sure everyone knows by now. We're going to go over the ODI series, which is going to be coming up in India between India and England. All three matches will be held in Pune as well, so a different location to Ahmedabad. Interesting to see how the pitches play there. First of all, Asjad, how you doing?
I am good. Just very excited, especially because my T20 series prediction was right, which doesn't happen very often. And yeah, I'm ecstatic. This ODI series looks very interesting, considering, England have lost a couple of players and there's a few players that's rested. That makes it a lot more difficult for England. But no, I'm very excited about the series coming up.
Yeah, I mean, same with me as well. Luckily, I got a prediction right for once, so we both picked 3-2 India. So at one point, like England might actually get that chase, which that huge 2-2-5, I think it was in the end. But yeah, India just came back from 2-1 down, so they'll be going into this ODI series in pretty good form and some momentum. Obviously, not all the players transfer over. Before we get into the squads, I just want to talk very briefly about who's missed out at kind of the big exclusions. So I guess let's start with England first. Obviously, the biggest one is Jofra Archer. Has had this kind of niggling elbow injury. I don't know whether he should have been playing the T20 series. I don't know. I'm no doctor, but it seems like he's had it for a bit of time, and England have played him and kind of maybe taken the risk. It's gotten worse, and now it looks like he's going to miss this, and also I think half the IPL as well, which is probably not a good sign for the Rajasthan Royals, which I know he plays for. So they'll be a bit disappointed with that. But I think even more so, England are looking towards the T20 World Cup and obviously the Ashes. So interesting whether he should have maybe got it looked at before. Maybe he is worse than they thought. That's a big blow, though, isn't it?
Huge blow. I think all of England's plans go around Jofra Archer, right? It's like, okay, Jofra Archer, so we'll have Mark Wood, we'll have Adil Rashid do this, we have Moeen Ali do this, etc., etc. But because there's no Archer, that kind of changes the entire perspective of things. And now I can't even, like, we talked about this briefly. They've got Reece Topley, they have Jake Ball in the reserves, they have Sam Curran, etc. But like, no one can replace Jofra Archer. The way he's come into the scene and now such a staple in the England lineup in all formats is just unreal. So a huge blow. On top of that, no Chris Stokes because he's being rested. No Joe Root, who's being rested as well. So England don't look 100% anymore. In the T20 series, we saw England actually explicitly saying, we're going to try and play our best 11, right? From all across the world, we're going to try and play our best 11. But in the ODIs, it doesn't seem like they wanted to do that, because Joe Root definitely gets into that side. Chris Stokes, I think he's the number 3 all-rounder in ODIs across the world. So definitely another person they've missed. And then now with this huge blow of Jofra Archer, makes England's job a lot harder. Even though Pune is mostly a flat track and is spin friendly, the last 3 matches there, I think, have earned 300 runs at least in the first inning. So it is a high scoring place. So maybe spinners galore, and we might actually get Moeen Ali in India after, playing, or not just India. He played 1 match out of the 11, right? Now there's 3 more coming. Maybe he gets a shot, and he definitely should, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, Moeen Ali is an interesting one, which I think we'll touch upon when we go into maybe the predicted 11s or the squad. But yeah, I agree with you. Maybe it's a case of, because the T20 World Cup is happening later this year, that they've just thought, well, we want to play our strongest side because we want to prioritize T20s for the rest of this year anyway. And then, ODIs is probably not as much emphasis on it at the moment for England. I mean, they've won the World Cup, the World Cup champions. They probably don't have anything to prove, really. I guess, well, that's what they may be thinking anyway. Joe Root, I guess they're resting him. They've got, I think, another 14 test matches to play in a record of, 17 in the whole year. So, yeah, it's a huge year for test cricket for England. So they're probably resting Joe Root. And as you said, Chris Stokes, I mean, he was integral to the World Cup win. Him opening the bowling with Jofra Archer, he kind of provided the perfect foil, did Chris Stokes. And it's interesting that obviously he hasn't been picked at all for the T20 side. But it just shows that we're seeing this shift in thinking and mentality, that actually you can actually be good in, say, one of the white ball formats, but the other, you might not be as good, which is amazing to see, because you'd think, oh, actually, if you're a good ODI player, you can do well in T20s, right? And actually, no, sometimes there's better players who are specialists. a la Dawood Milan, for example. So it's really interesting that cricket's going that way. But yeah, I agree with you. I think they're missing some big players, and I predicted 2-1. I think at the before we knew about the squad, but I think I really want to revise my decision now because India looked pretty strong. I think apart from obviously the omissions of Bumrah and Jadeja. Just to go through the squads then very briefly, I'll go through England's first. Actually, let's do India's first. We haven't really touched on them too much. Virat Kohli's the captain, obviously. Chahal's in the squad. Dhawan, Gill, which is interesting because I don't think he's played a single ODI as of yet for India. I might be mistaken. Shreyas Iyer, obviously, he's performed well in the past. Prasidh Krishna is a new inclusion. Bhuvneshwar Kumar, Natarajan Pandya, Krunal Pandya, I think is a new inclusion. You probably know better than me, but I think he is as well. Rishabh Pant, KL Rahul, Rohit Sharma, Mohammad Siraj, again, I don't think he's ever played ODI. Washington Sundar, Shardul Thakur, Kuldeep Yadav, and Surya Kumar Yadav, who obviously performed really well in the T20 series. Got 50 odd in his debut and then 30 odd in the second match he played as well. What are your initial thoughts of that ODI squad? Any surprises? Any surprise exclusions? What do you think?
In terms of surprises, you mentioned Shubman Gill and Krunal Pandya as new faces in the squad. I think Shubman Gill has played 2 or 3 ODIs previously, but hasn't had the best of times. Krunal Pandya has played T20 internationals and is a pretty big name in the IPL, and he's had a fantastic Vijay Hazare Trophy as of late as well. So these are good additions, and I'm glad they've actually had a chance in there. Unfortunately, no Ishan Kishan, but I think it's because of his injury rather than him not being good enough. So they have Surya Kumar Yadav, which is great. Someone who played in the last 2 matches and played very well, I must say, in the T20I series. Now probably transfer that momentum into the ODI. So I'm quite happy with the Indian side. One thing I just want to mention, they've got Natarajan, they've got Bhuvneshwar Kumar, they've actually got Kuldeep Yadav as well, which I'm actually really happy about because I like Kuldeep Yadav, but he's not had the best of times, not just internationally, even domestically. He's not getting many chances, right? Because he's not getting that many chances, he can't really come into his own and prove himself as much as, he would have been able to about 3-4 years ago when he was more of a staple in all of these sides. So I'm quite happy with it, to be honest. I'm still a bit surprised that Washington Sundar is in there, but we've seen Washington Sundar test player, T20. Now probably India want to take a look at if he's ODI worthy as well. Because he's 21, 22. If you get someone in there now and he keeps performing, maybe he stays in there for 10, 12 years, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
And becomes one of the key components of their lineup. So yeah, I don't have any disagreements. Maybe Shikhar Dhawan, but the thing is, Shikhar Dhawan is so good in ODIs, I can't even say that. He didn't look great in the T20I series. He didn't look too good in the IPL. But in Australia, he was okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he played a couple matches. Right?
Yeah, he did. He actually played well in the T20 series and the ODIs as well, I think. And I think it's going back to what I was saying before, that it's crazy because before you'd think that there would be this massive transfer between T20s and ODIs, but I think he's proving that he's a very good ODI player, but maybe in T20s, he's not as skilled, or maybe he's not quite up to date with how T20 cricket's moving. And it's interesting you said about Washington Sundar as well, because he is someone who, I mean, if he's performing well in the test matches and in the test arena and then the T20 arena, you'd expect him to be able to perform the middle ground. It's not always the case, but normally you don't have many people who are in a T20 squad or the T20 11 and Test 11, and they don't make the ODI 11. I mean, that's pretty. I mean, I can't actually think of anyone off the top of my head. I could be wrong, but I don't think there's many people like that. So I'd imagine he'd get a chance potentially. I mean, it's only 3 ODIs, so let's see. Shubman Gill's in there for cover, I guess, but I can't. He may get a game if they rotate. You're right. He played 3 ODIs. He's only scored no 50s. Highest score of 33. So yeah, he hasn't had a fantastic time of it. But at home, he might be better. He's lacking a bit of confidence though since that Test series as well.
I just want to mention something which I just remembered. 2 players. I know India's probably going to give them a year and a bit before bringing them into the Indian fold of things or back into the side. Prithvi Shaw and Devdutt Padikkal, both of these guys scored, in excess of 700 runs in the recent Vijay Hazare Trophy, which is an one-day tournament, which is a 50-over tournament. So Krunal Pandya gets in the side because of his Vijay Hazare Trophy performance, but he's been doing that for quite some time, right? But Prithvi Shaw hasn't done it as of late for too long. He was dropped in Australia and then came back with a bang. We saw Devdutt Padikkal just performing once again. He didn't have a very good Syed Mushtaq Ali trophy, but he had a pretty good IPL. So he's also in that transition zone that maybe in a couple of years they actually walk into this Indian lineup. So those two are exclusions that I'm a bit not too happy about, but I understand it because I think they're looking into the future rather than immediate gain like people like Haider Ali in the Pakistan squad.
Oh, come on. Haider Ali's doing okay. Well, the thing is, I think the difference between the comparison that you just made is that unfortunately Pakistan probably don't have the breadth and depth of talent that India have at the moment. So that's why. So when that happens, then you just have to rely on people coming through, whereas India can afford to just say, oh, we'll just hold you back for a year or so, and then you just keep on racking up the confidence. We've got people who will do a good job. And yeah, Prithvi Shaw is a really interesting one because clearly he didn't have a good time in Australia in the Test series, but in the One Day Cup, the VJSR Trophy, as you said, he's performed unbelievably well and kind of looks incredible in incredible form. So I wouldn't have been surprised if he would have got picked, but maybe it's just a case of, well, they want him to play. Most likely he won't even get a game, so why put him in the squad? So that's probably the thinking behind it as well. Yeah, Kuldeep Yadav actually is a really interesting one because I think he's not getting into his side because of Chakravarti, isn't it? From what I know, the leg spinner who's keeps on failing a fitness test, so isn't able to actually get into the side for some reason. Don't know why. Don't ask me. I'm not going to go into conspiracy theories as to why, but no idea. But anyway, Kuldeep Yadav is someone who, when he first burst onto the scene, he was like the next big thing. He was this guy who had that mystery around him, as many spinners do when they come on, and because he's a left arm wrist spinner as well, he's got that added element. I'm assuming we might see him and Chahal working in tandem. I think that's what they look to go to. I think at some point they might look to go towards that going forward. It'll be interesting whether they do that or not, because you've got Washington Sundar in there as well. You don't necessarily need both of them in there. But the person I really wanted to ask you about was Mohammad Siraj, because obviously we've seen him do well in the Test matches. But what do you think of him in an ODI format? The ball's not going to do as much. I think he relies quite a bit on that kind of nip off the surface and also swinging the ball, especially into the right-hander. What do you think of that inclusion?
I think the only reason he's there, as you said, a couple of players have been selected because of as backups or potential reserves. So I think Mohammad Siraj is in there because of that. Mohammad Siraj is a class bowler. We saw in the Test matches. We saw a bit of his limited overs form in the IPL. I think in his 4 overs, he took 4 for 7, right? So he does have the ability, but as you clearly pointed out, he's a better red ball bowler rather than a white ball bowler. So if he gets a chance, it'll be nice to see how he fits into that side. I'll tell you this. I don't see him playing any of the matches. I think they've got Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, Shardul Thakur, and potentially Natarajan, right? All 3 of those walk into that side. So it'll be very difficult to get someone like Sirajan or even Prasidh Krishna, because Prasidh Krishna is a very good bowler domestically. I think I mentioned this before. In 48 List A games, he's taken 81 wickets at an average of 23, at a bowling average of 23. So they've got backups, but that's only in case they need it. Or if India are winning the series 2-0, they're like, oh, let's just play Krishna and Siraj and let's see how they go in the ODI format. I think they're reserves. I don't see them starting off whatsoever, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll start off strong, won't they? And kind of see how it goes. Okay, let's go into the England ODI squad then quickly. So Owen Morgan, captain, as usual. Moeen Ali, Johnny Bairstow, Sam Billings, Joss Butler, Sam Curran, Tom Curran, Liam Livingston, who I think is the biggest, not surprised, because I think he was always going to get a call up, but he's someone that people may not be as familiar with. Matt Parkinson as well. Both play for Lancashire. Matt Parkinson, leg spinner, who I think, you said you weren't too familiar with him. You looked at him, you did some research on him, and you were like, oh, he looks pretty good, leggy. Ardil Rashid, Jason Roy, Ben Stokes, Reece Topley, and Mark Wood. So obviously, as we mentioned before, some big names missing: your Archer, Wokes, Root, etc. My question to you is then, I mean, who's going to bat 3? Because there's no Root. They can go one of 2 ways, I guess. They could go very, very left field and do something like put Ben Stokes at 3. But is there any point in doing that? Because long term, I don't think he will be at 3 unless a lot of memes are going around saying that they're going to push Joe Root out the ODI side. But I can't really see that happening long term. I don't know. They might be looking towards the ODI World Cup. Maybe he doesn't want to play. He might do an Alistair Cook and just kind of elongate his career. But I think he's a much better white ball player than Alistair Cook ever was, though, as well. Or they can go with someone like a Liam Livingston. Sam Billings, I don't think, is a 3. I don't think he's ever batted at 3, even for Kent. So he's more of a middle order batsman. But yeah, first of all, what are your initial thoughts on the squad and the makeup? And I mean, they look pretty weakened. So this is going to be a hard slog for them, I'd assume.
Yeah, which is interesting because England, for me, their best format is ODIs, right? For me, I think England is they're good, very good in ODIs, pretty good in T20s, and Test is their weakest format. But the way they've shown that they can compete with India in India, even in Test matches, even in the T20Is, it seems like maybe they will have some sort of fight there. They look weak because of, as we mentioned before, Joe Root and Ben Stokes, and now not Ben Stokes, Chris Woakes, and then no Jofra Archer. But maybe we get someone like Reece Topley to start off. Maybe we see that left arm angle, that bounce that he gets, a bit of a slightly different angle in this side, which would be quite beneficial, especially if Moeen Ali is playing. I don't see Sam Curran playing. So if Moeen Ali is playing, then Sam Curran doesn't play. So you have that left arm angle as well, which would be good. You said with regards to some interesting choices, I thought Liam Livingston was a kind of surprise package because I didn't know how good he was in List A, but I think he does have an average of in the mid 30s somewhere and strikes the ball at almost 100. So he's very good as a number 3. Sam Billings, though, I think gets in straight away. He's had an average of 77 over the past 6 matches playing for England, but he's batting as a finisher. So between 5 and 7, that's where he thrives. So it's interesting. Left field, yes, Ben Stokes at 3, never going to be a permanent spot for him. But what if they go with another opener with Jason Roy and Bairstow bats at 3, right? What if they plan on going Jos Buttler, which I know we both don't agree with Butler opening, right? But what if Butler opens with Jason Roy, right? So England have a lot of questions they need to get answered. But yeah, Bairstow is definitely in their side anyway. So he'll be opening or at number 3. Liam Livingston is the best option, as you said, best option out of what they have left. Or Dawood Malan, right? Dawood Malan is in the reserves. I don't see him playing. I'm just telling you a fact. He's in the reserves, right? If he's in the reserves, maybe.
Yeah.
Go on.
I'd like to see him. I would like to see him, but I guess it's what I came back to, and I don't want to contradict myself because it is a different format. So I don't know. I mean, I think he's played like 1 ODI, I think it is. Something, and that's it. So that's not really much to go on. He's obviously played Test matches for England, a lot more than that. So I don't know, but I'm assuming they'll go Liam Livingston. As you said, he's striking at just under 199.48 strike rate to be exact, and average of 36. So that's a pretty good record. He can actually bowl a little bit of leggies as well. He can bowl a little bit of leg spin. He's kind of developed that in the last year or so, especially in the T20 format. I don't think we'll see him bowl for England, but he does have that in his locker as well. If I had to press you then, let's kind of go into the predicted 11s, let's say, rather than your specific 11. Or should we do that instead? No, who do you think they're going to go with? I guess England going into the first ODI. How do you think they're going to formulate their team?
I think England will more likely than not go with Sam Billings over Liam Livingston. So they go with, and this is going to be interesting, right? You've got Jason Roy, right? And you've got Johnny Bairstow. And then I'm not going to tell you who's at 3. I'm just going to tell you which players I'm going to add in. And then they're just going to figure themselves out and fit in somewhere. But it'll be Owen Morgan, Ben Stokes, Jos Buttler, and Sam Billings. Then you have Moeen Ali. Who else do we have? We've got Mark Wood. We've got Adil Rashid, Reece Topley, and maybe one of the Currans. I think both Tom and Sam are both in the side, aren't they? So it'll be one of the Currans. More likely Sam Curran than Tom Curran in the side now. But yeah, that's what I think England will probably go with. But Liam Livingston is a tough one because he hasn't played in like 3 or 4 years for England, which is why I'm a bit apprehensive that will they start off with Liam Livingston at 3. But it's very interesting. Sam Billings has to play. That's the big thing. Billings has to play for England. He's been one of their best batsmen in ODIs for the past year. They've got Johnny Bairstow with an average of 46, 47. Then we got Sam Billings with an average of in excess of 60. So definitely these two have to play, which is why I'm potentially thinking they might shift Ben Stokes up the order. They might go Ben Stokes at 3, which you said is a left field decision, but maybe they do look at it as a potential option.
Yeah, I think they might do that actually, and it's interesting because you think, okay, do we want to go with a team that maybe everyone's going to bat in their usual positions, and you don't want an experiment, and then when people come back in, they can just slot in, i.e., someone like Joe Root, or do we go with a team that we think potentially has a higher chance of winning, but it's a bit more experimental? Owen Morgan seems like a bit of an experimental person. I'm going to go with, so I'm going to assume that he might go a bit left field. You know what? This is so biased, but I'd love to see Moeen Ali at 3, and that's never going to happen. But he bats for Worcester in the top 3. He opens actually in white ball cricket.
Right. If Moeen Ali bats at 3 against India, I will be shocked. I will.
No,
be
he
so
won't. He won't.
He won't.
No, he won't. I mean, this is more just my like pipe dream. I'm wishing that it will happen, but I don't think it will happen. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see him now. He's not going to happen though. But let's see. I think, yeah, I reckon it will be. I don't think they're going to go with Joss Butler opening, just because I don't think they'll want to destroy that opening pair of Johnny Best and Jason. Well, I thought that in the T20s, and they did exactly that. So who am I to say anything? So, but yeah, I think they'll go Johnny Bairstow, Jason Roy. Yeah, Ben Stokes. I think they'll go at 3. I'd like to see Liam Livingston, but I think they'll go Ben Stokes because, as you said, I think they need to fit in Billings somewhere. And if Ben Stokes is playing, normally, if Joe Root's in there and Ben Stokes is playing, Billings is not on the side, which sounds ridiculous to say, but he won't be because they need another option bowling-wise. So you have Sam Curran and Moeen Ali. That's just how it is. So yeah, so I think Bairstow, Roy, Ben Stokes, Morgan. At 5, you can have, yes, Butler, I guess, 6 Stokes, 7 Moeen, 8 Sam Curran, 9 Adil Rashid, 10 Topley, 11 Mark Wood. That's probably, I think, they might go with Tom Curran, but given his current form, I think that's a pretty brave decision, if I'm being honest with you. Matt Parkinson, I'd like to see get a go, but I guess it depends how much the pitch is turning. If it's turning more, they might bring in someone like Matt Parkinson in for Reece Topley, for example. They could do that, and then you've got 2 all-rounders though. Mark Wood, it's probably a bit too light on the seamers, but let's see. What are the India side then? What do you think? Who they're going to go with?
Virat Kohli has said explicitly that their ODI openers are going to be Rohit Sharma and Shikhar Dhawan, but he said it was going to be Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul in the T20 series, and then they started off with no Rohit Sharma. So,
but that wasn't that after the that was after KL Rahul. Wasn't that after the 3rd one? He said it.
No, he said it before the series that Rohit and KL will be our main openers. And then Rohit Sharma didn't open, it was Shikhar Dhawan. So I'm going to go with Rohit Sharma, Shikhar Dhawan to open, then Virat Kohli, Shreyas Iyer, Rishabh Pant, Hardik Pandya. Number 7 is the big one because if everyone was fit, that's Ravi Jadeja straight in, right? Ravi Jadeja's spot at number 7. So they've got 3, potentially 2 or 3 options. They've got Washington Sundar and they've got Krunal Pandya. One of them is going to play at number 7. Maybe they favor Krunal Pandya. Again, Virat Kohli loves himself some Washington Sundar, so maybe he'll stick with him. But if it was me, I would go Krunal Pandya because of his brilliant Vijay Hazare Trophy just very recently. So I think Krunal Pandya would get in there. And then you have Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, Shalul Thakur, Nataraj, and then one of Chahal and Kuldeep. I go Chahal mainly because I think India will go Chahal because he's more tried and tested, etc., etc. But I would like to see Kuldeep Yadav in there for sure. Natarajan definitely gets in. I think someone said this, that because he's such a good Yorker bowler, he's such a good death over specialist, that it's hard to keep him out, especially of the ODI side when you don't have Bumrah. When you don't have Bumrah or Mohammad Shami, they need someone else at the death. So I think Natarajan definitely gets him. And the biggest question mark for me, like I said, is that number 7, and then which spinner they play. More likely than not, they're playing Chahal.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll play Chahal. I actually think, and this could be very, very interesting, but I think they'll go with KL Rahul in the middle order, which I think they've done in the past, haven't they? But I reckon they won't play Krunal Pandya. They might do. and maybe because KL Rahul's not in particularly good form with the bat in the T20s. But I think his ODI form is ridiculous, KL Rahul, and I could be wrong. But I think his
I think you're right.
I think his figures are very good. So I'd be very surprised if they don't at least play him. I think he's been batting at 5, hasn't he? So yes, he averages 46. That's ridiculous. So I mean, obviously he has come in as an opener when Shikhar Dhawan was injured in the World Cup. But yeah, I think Dhawan, Sharma, Kohli, Shreyas Iyer. Then yeah, I'd go KL Rahul at 5, and then you've got Rishabh Pant, Hardik Pandya. What's that? 6, 7, and then 8. Washington Sundar, yeah, maybe. And then you've got I guess Chahal, Natarajan, and Bhuvneshwar Kumar.
You're not picking Shardul Thakur?
No, I don't know. I don't think they're going to go with him. They could do. But I think. Well, so how many seamers have you got there? Then you've got 2 plus Hardik Pandya 3.
I'm going 4 seamers and 2 spinners. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I guess the issue is if they pick KL Rahul, then it leaves them, I guess, shackled to 5 bowlers. I don't know how they're going to balance that up. I just feel like it's crazy to leave out someone who averages 47, like in ODIs. It's just absolute carnage. So I don't know where they fit him in. Maybe they don't fit him in, as you said, but let's see. I think, yeah, the balance is probably a bit wrong with that prediction. So we'll see how it goes. They might go with Krunal Pandya, who can bowl a bit as well. But let's see how it goes. Okay, let's do the predictions then. You can revise your prediction because I think I'm going to revise mine. What do you think?
I said England 2-1, and after Archer's injury, I'm going India 2-1.
Yeah, I think I agree. Actually, I think England will be able to win. Actually, do I think they'll win 1-0? Maybe.
They'll win the first one. India always lose the first one, right?
That's true. That's true. Moeen Ali to hit 100 and get a 5 in one game and win England the game. No, I reckon, yeah, 2-1 India. 2-1 India, I think. They should be able to win one game. I mean, they are still strong enough. Let's see how it goes. It'll be interesting as well. And as you said, these pitches should turn. Well, we'll see if they do turn or not. And with Adil Rashid and Moeen Ali, they should get success, as they have done in the past. So those two are going to be really key in the middle overs. As we know in ODIs, opening up, they're pretty weak, I think. I guess they're going to open up with Reece Topley. And then, to be honest, Mark Wood is not an opening bowler. So they might have to go Reece Topley and Sam Curran, 2 lefties.
Potentially.
Because they've lost both their opening bowlers in Wokes and Archer, right? So that's a bit of a nightmare for them. Because with a new ball, especially if you've got someone like Rohit Sharma, I mean, he's one of the best ODI players ever, probably. I mean, you don't want to be facing him on a flat track in Pune with Reece Topley bowling 80 mile per hour balls. It's just, yeah, it's not going to be good, I don't think. But let's see. I can see some big scores, that's for sure. As you said, scores of 300 plus, I think, on the cards. Okay. Thank you very much, Asjad. Is there anything you want to touch on before we wrap up?
No, just it's going to be an interesting series, especially after the exclusion of Jofra Archer. We'll see what England's depth is like. You know, we've seen India's depth all throughout the winter, and then even now. Let's see what England can actually pull out of the bag and see if they'll actually be able to win some matches after resting some key personnel and then getting their best bowler, in my opinion, right now, injured.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, I think maybe that might be a topic for another video about talking about how Jofra Archer's been handled. Maybe it's interesting because you don't know whether it could be a case of he's just said, actually, I'm happy to play. And actually, no, it's fine. Or he might even said to them, they might have said, actually, no, we need you to rest. And he said, no, I really want to play. So don't worry, I'm fine. I mean, he played it down. I don't know. But either way, I think England have kind of got to put their foot down. They have now, but it seems a little bit too little too late. Hopefully it's not long-term damage and it just gets sorted out pretty quickly, because you don't want to see someone like him out for very long. And I know, again, I don't watch the IPL, but all I'm saying is that Rajasthan Royals are probably hating England a lot right now, let's just be honest. But yeah,
I just want to say something about, we saw Adil Rashid open the bowling in the T20s. Would you expect someone like Adil Rashid or maybe Moeen Ali open the bowling?
So Moeen Ali's opened the bowling in T20s for England. I think he's actually done it in ODIs at times. It's interesting because who they're opening up with, Shikhar Dhawan and Rohit Sharma. So actually they might go with Moeen Ali to the left-hander of Shikhar Dhawan, because I think realistically Adil Rashid to Rohit Sharma is not super effective, I don't think. from what I've seen. So they might go with that. Actually, that's quite a good point. They may maybe give Moeen a couple of overs, see how he does, if he does play, and see whether he can get that wicket or Shikhar Dhawan or Rohit Sharma, but I think more likely Shikhar Dhawan. And if he can get that early wicket, then they'll be happy with it. And then it puts less pressure on the other seamers who are not so accustomed to using the new ball, I guess, in the ODI format. That's a good point as well. So yeah, I can see that. I can see that for sure. Especially one of the games, at least, I would assume they'll try that.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, no, that's everything from me, Fernand. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure. Enjoy your work. Keep doing what you're doing. Great job.
No, thank you. Likewise, as well, as always, Asjad. Always a pleasure. Thank you very much for being on. Guys, as well, please do remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I don't think I've said that at any time throughout this whole video, so I should probably say it now if you're still here after the 30 minutes that we've been talking. If not, then I don't know. I'll put a subscribe at the start of the video or something. But yeah, thank you very much, guys. And thank you, as always, Asjad. And you know where Asjad's from. Cricket4Us 2.0. Go over, subscribe to his channel as well, like the videos. And yeah, thank you very much.